Hello everyone, I'm JC, and in today's video, I'm going to be redesigning some more original characters of mine from a story I made at least 2 or 3 years ago when I was a wee little baby artist, and my art skills weren't as developed as now. This is going to be a longer video than usual since I have so much I want to touch on, and also need to for the story to make sense. If you want, I'd suggest putting this on in the background while doing something, since it'll just be me talking a bunch about the characters and story. Quick little warning though, this video gets a bit violent and descriptive, so if you're sensitive to death and that sort of stuff, then I'd suggest you click off the video now. But without further ado, let's get into the video. I had a story some years ago with 2 characters named Jake and Lily. Lily being an ordinary person who unknowingly was born into a family that had an ancestor called the Hero. And Jake was skilled with a bow and arrow, and he knew about his ancestor, who was Robin Hood. He also knew about Lily's ancestor. Now, both the Hero and Robin Hood protected the human race from an alien race called glitches that lived centuries ago that used to terrorize humans. They eventually trapped the glitches into a prism realm with the help of a blacksmith that had gems that attached to a sword. But the gems were technically gateways to different realms. Centuries later, while on a walk, Lily got attacked by a glitch that escaped from its realm to ours. But Jake was quick to save her. Later that day, Jake told Lily most of what glitches are, the origins of their ancestors, and what the king of the glitches was up to. Sparky, which is the king of the glitches, planned to go to the different realms and collect different items that would help them enter the cave where the sword with the gems is. Somehow, the glitches found a way to open portals to the different realms, but they were only small enough for one person, and only a select few of higher glitches were allowed to use this power. So in order for Sparky to send his army through a portal, he would need the sword to the realms, giving him full reign to take over the worlds. That's where Jake and Lily would go to those worlds and try to stop him. Worlds such as a snow biome with Jack Frost, a futuristic city with Winnie the Pooh, and a Wild West setting with cowboys and sheriffs. Obviously, Jake and Lily and everyone they met from the realms stopped Sparky and his plan to take over the realms, and everyone goes back to how life was. The story had some iterations that weren't in the final story, like Jake secretly betraying Lily or a romantic dance sequence during the Wild West chapter. Overall, it was a good story that I would like to revisit with different characters and new villains. Before the events of the main story, Lily used to be a part of a special branch in the military called the SDO, or the Stealth Deployment Operation, known for being a stealth-oriented group of about 4 people, one of those being Lily. They mostly took out any unwanted people, cartels, foreign transport, and took care of any dangerous political disputes. The SDO branch was mostly controlled by the president, and was seen as a higher rank than the US Army, mostly because they took on country-threatening missions, such as stopping nukes, stealing classified information from other countries, and so on. Out of everyone in the SDO, Lily was always seen as the most flexible, quiet, and the most mysterious out of the group. Often to herself and her thoughts, the others would sometimes say she looked as if she was in space, or a world beyond ours, always dreaming. On the 11th of April of 3040, there was an attack that happened on the White House, almost killing the president. The SDO squad was sent to investigate the attack, with a small military team at their disposal. Eventually, after following the tracks, they found a huge laboratory underneath the Washington Monument, filled with containers making loud noises, almost as if they were screaming. The military team suddenly pointed their guns on Lily and her team. Without a second to spare, the SDO captain disarmed and killed one of the military team members. Then Lily threw a flash grenade, stunning the other soldiers. The whole SDO team split up to try and flank the soldiers. Eventually, Lily would find a security room, with monitors watching the entire place. One of the monitors had files on it, and a USB sticking out of the keyboard. before she could see what was on the files, on one of the monitors was the rest of the military team that got wiped out by a weird creature. On the monitor next to her, she saw her team running from the same thing. The alarms suddenly went off, and before she could react, one of those creatures came charging at her. She quickly grabbed the USB and ran. While running away, she made it back to her squad. They tried to figure out a way to escape, but not before a group of those creatures attacked them. They were able to fend most of them off, but not before one of her squad mates got snatched up by one of the creature's claws and crushed to death. Obviously scared, the others had to force Lily to run. They were running to the exit and the door slammed behind the rest of Lily's squad mates. She tried to pry the door open, but it was sealed shut, and all she could do was watch as her friends were torn apart and killed by the creatures. After the incident, Lily decided to not return to the SDO, but decided to fake her death and live on the outskirts of New York to stay hidden. Jake was a very adventurous kid, always wanting to go on adventures, looking for treasure, and get into massive shootouts. One of his sources to quench that desire was to sometimes dream about what life would be like if he was an adventurer. Years later, Jake would find himself in a jail in the northwestern side of Mexico, trying to find help from an adventurer who got himself put into jail for stealing a precious artifact from a museum. His name was Ramiro, a well-known man for his daring and very dangerous treasure hunting history. Jake would eventually find Ramiro and convince him to help him find the long-lost treasure in the Copper Canyon. The treasure in particular belonged to the pirate Santiago, or better known as St. James. He was a very brave and cunning pirate, always getting himself and his crew into trouble. Him and his crew sailed the oceans with his ship, the Little Dipper, and they were very well known along the edge of Mexico for their adventures and wealth. They were always making trips across the Gulf of Mexico. They were often nicknamed the Sailing Saints by the locals. Before Santiago's passing, people believe he sailed and hid his treasure in the mines of the Copper Canyon, where no one would dare to go, for the mines were very fragile and often collapsed. Jake and Ramiro later broke out of jail and made it to a motel. There, they would plan on getting this treasure. Early in the morning, on April 30th of 3034, Jake and Ramiro got in a jeep with revolvers and a burlap sack and drove off to the canyon. While in the mines, they found highly armed American smugglers. Jake became hesitant to continue. Ramiro then proceeded to distract some smugglers by blowing up a wall with dynamite, and they ran to the stronghold. There, they found Santiago's lost treasure. Before they could grab some of the treasure, they were put at gunpoint by some of the smugglers and interrogated. Jake would look at the entrance and see them hauling a large container into the stronghold. Within a second's notice, Jake grabbed one of the smugglers' guns and broke open the container as a distraction. Before they could run, a large creature ran out of the container and started to devour and infect all the smugglers. The transformations of the people were gruesome, with their skin stretching and limbs transforming. It was horror. Ramiro grabbed Jake and ran out of the collapsing mines. They got in the jeep and sped off with a small portion of the treasure, but not without the remaining smugglers chasing them, with a huge car chase beginning. Then suddenly, Jake and Ramiro's jeep started to catch on fire, prompting them to jump out of the car and escape into a large crowd in one of the cities. When they got back at the motel, they celebrated, but only for a moment, trying to process what happened at the canyon. After that day, they promised each other not to tell a soul what happened at the canyon. So they split the money and kept in touch. Jake went to the US, and Ramiro continued adventuring in Mexico. Later in Jake's life, he would find himself in jail once again, meeting his future teammate, Lily. Yo, right now we're at the halfway mark of the video, and this is also the part of the video that's really unscripted. So, thank you guys for whoever is still here watching the video. It's not my best work right now, especially since I'm in pre-editing, and the quality for the art, the speed painting isn't good right now. I don't know why. It was probably my canvas size, but I can't really fix that, sadly, so it's gonna be blurry. But yeah, I'm making it back to YouTube now. I don't know if anyone really knew why I left, because only 60 some subscribers, but I could care less. It's still a good amount of subscribers. Yeah, I'm working on a new project, animated series that I'm gonna hand animate and write, and hopefully I'll learn how to do music for it. That's kind of the future right now. I'm also gonna do some little animations. I'm not really down for YouTube Shorts. I'm probably just gonna do long form videos and maybe some like little concept animations. Get ready to see a video of Darth Vader though, because I'm gonna do a little animation test with him. And yeah, just like, subscribe. It's all free. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I would appreciate it. It would help out with the channel and help keep me motivated to continue making YouTube videos. Appreciate it. On to the rest of the video, I guess. One winter night on December 24th of 3026, there stood an orphanage for young kids who had no parents or relations to others. It was funded by the government to give orphan kids a safe place to stay. Obviously, orphanages were phased out of the US during the 1950s and 60s, but the government had decided to implement them back into society, and nobody knows why. In the orphanage, there were two kids, a girl named Rose and a boy named Jesse. Now, Jesse and Rose knew each other long before entering the orphanage, due to them both finding themselves on streets trying to find food. And after that day, they became very close friends. One day, a woman who was very kind and very endearing, with an almost comforting smile, took them to an orphanage. There, they would live at least a year inside the orphanage. There, they were fed, clothed, and read stories every time before bed. There were approximately 50 kids living there at the time, and Jesse and Rose were able to make friends really quickly. The staff were also very nice and often played with the kids. During that night on December 24th, the orphanage had a celebration to the kids that were chosen to be a part of families, and Jesse and Rose were some of the few chosen. Once the party was over, the staff brought the kids over to a room where they were locked in and sedated with the smoke that put them all to sleep. Jesse would wake up in a cargo container, being shipped to who knows where. He would find Rose holding tight to him in a deep sleep. Jesse then saw a hole in the container and went towards it. When looking into the hole, he saw they were in some sort of cargo plane flying through the air. He then picked up Rose and carried her out the container and into the plane vents where they could hide. There suddenly came two guards who opened the containers that showed a multitude of kids, and all were from the orphanage. One of the guards then mentioned a lab, which, from what it seemed, is where they were heading. The lab was in a secluded island, with ships and planes loading and unloading crates and containers from the island. Jesse then got off when the plane landed and ran to the nearest building. There, he found kids in crates and scientists grabbing them and bringing them to a room. You could hear some kids screaming in agony in the other room. Jesse was obviously scared on what they were doing to them, but he put his fears aside and got both him and Rose off the island. After a bit of searching, the alarms would suddenly go off, with the lady on the comms talking about some evacuation protocol. But then, she was heard being brutally killed on the comms. Jesse ran to the nearest room, which he thought was safe, but in the room he saw a creature with multiple different limbs from different animals, but specifically, mangled human faces all around the body, multiple of them, as if people were merged together. He stood in fear as he watched it eating one of the scientists alive. Just before it could see him, a woman grabbed Jesse and pulled him out of the room and locked it. This scientist seemed different though. She didn't want to harm them or even put them in cages. She even wanted to help Jesse and Rose escape. She explained that there were boats that would help them escape. Just then, some other creatures broke out of their containments and started to terrorize other scientists, thankfully giving them enough time to make it to the main lobby of the lab. The main lobby was infested with all the creatures roaming it. Jesse then saw the breaker box being guarded by some of the creatures. He then took a gun from one of the dead scientists and shot the lights, making the whole room go dark, which gave them enough time to get out in the main lobby and into the boat station and escape off the island. Years ago, a rock from space came crashing onto our Earth in the middle of a city. Authorities began to investigate it, and eventually the government took the rock to a secure facility. They started to tamper with it. Then creatures, unlike anything seen on Earth, emerged from the rock. The creatures greeted the humans in their cryptid language. They even brought a peace offering gift with them, in the form of a large space crystal. The creatures explained how their planet was being sucked into a large black hole that wiped out half of their galaxy. So they fled into a giant rock, hoping to rebuild on a new planet. During that time, the government was in a large war with the country, so they agreed to help the creatures live a peaceful life, as long as they'd help us protect our country. The creatures agreed to helping, and many of their kind made highly advanced weaponry with materials scavenged from their home to help with the war. After winning, the government would hold a live broadcast at the White House, showing the creatures to the public. The creatures would give themselves the name Glitches and live a rather good life on Earth. They got used to the human customs and learned new Earth languages. Many years later, there will be a glitch named Sparky, who is a biochemist, studied his own kind to see their physical strengths and weaknesses. After years of studying, he made a medicine with his kind's own DNA that had the ability to make anything that got injected with it more powerful, health-wise and strength-wise. It even cured viruses that were deemed incurable. Because of this massive feat, Sparky became really famous. Sparky would eventually be promoted to the lab director, where he would see over the laboratory and the work of everyone who works there. One day, a patient who was injected with the medicine started to feel ill and began to start vomiting and getting weaker, which was really strange, considering up to that point they had been fine. Sparky and some other biochemists monitored the patient. The patient one night started to kill and destroy almost everything in the lab that night. They were eventually able to contain him. It seemed the medicine elongated his limbs and made him have the mind of a feral animal. He also had patches on his body that seemed to indicate that he was becoming some sort of mutated glitch. Sparky took this as an opportunity. He gathered all the prior patients who got injected with the medicine and took them to his lab to conduct research. It turned out after a while of the medicine being in the human body, it would begin to change the host's DNA. And it would begin to mix it with the glitch DNA with theirs. After the incident, Sparky would start a program called Biohazard Development. The program was made so that he could test the subjects that were injected, but with the expense of doing it behind the government's back. He would test the creatures for years, perfecting their DNA and biology, until one day, one of the stronger creatures, nicknamed the Scourge, escaped containment and ran rampant in the city, tearing apart cars, tanks, and helicopters. It took the government at least 20,000 troops and 400 tanks and helicopters to take it out. After the incident, the government found out about Sparky's program and how he was been exploiting the patients and using the fundings from the government for illegal purposes. The president himself, being good friends with Sparky during that time, went to confront him with a group of military who were sent to confiscate everything in the lab. The president confronted Sparky and told him he was going to imprison him for the rest of his life for all the innocent lives he's harmed. Sparky was enraged and injected the president with the medicine, turning him into one of those creatures. Sparky would begin to let out all of the experiments into the country, causing a pandemic and a countrywide apocalypse. After a couple days into the apocalypse, Sparky then invaded the White House and Congress, killing everyone in the government. Sparky, from that day on, became a king in a way, but he still decided to call himself the president for who knows why. Sparky, with all the power of a strong military, captured and secured all the creatures and transport them to labs. A year into ruling, Sparky would change the entire state of Washington, D.C., splitting the state into rich and poor sectors, with Sparky in the middle of it all. And that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate it if you actually did take the time to watch this. Do comment down what your favorite part about it was. And this part of the video is also unscripted, like the middle part. So I am going to talk about what I'm doing for the future of the YouTube channel, I guess. And pretty much I'm going to stop with the OC redesigns because I made way too many of them. I was trying to keep the trend alive, but you know what? Some trends just got to stay in the ground. So I'm done with making those videos. I'm going to start doing animations now. I'm working on a little pilot, I guess, for a show I've wanted to make, my very first one. I don't know if it will happen. I have the idea. I have some characters set out in mind. But I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. But if I will, we'll see. I'm definitely going to start working on it, though. I will put little videos out here and there. Maybe I'll put, like, a video before I go ahead and release the pilot. That's whenever I release the pilot, I guess. I will do some YouTube shorts so my channel doesn't go dry. But whoever's watching this, thanks. If you could subscribe and like, again. How many subscribers do I have? I think I have like 60 subscribers. So if nobody left, thank you for staying. I appreciate it. I really do. But that's the end of the video. Without further ado, see you guys in the next one.